Just two adjacent girls living in a lovely world. They took a podcast train going anywhere, but kind of specifically through Austin, Texas. Yeah, hook 'em horns.
Welcome back, y'all. Welcome to Adjacent. Wow, we have a badass in the house. We are so excited, all the way from Louisiana, a big LSU Tiger, and an incredible woman, powerful, all about advocating for people, doing the right thing. So, who do we have, Shelly? And how did you hear about her, Shelly?
Well, our Jody's, I'm going to say it, favorite cousin of John's.
Well, she is one of our favorite cousins for sure.
She's my favorite cousin of John's. I can say that for sure. Mary Leibers posted about this woman, and I just was like, who is this? And we've been having these conversations about the corrections system and learning about it. So we have Kim Bailey Barnette, and she is getting ready to, in August, receive a huge award about her education in the corrections system.
Wow.
And so I was like, I saw the post on Saturday or yesterday, maybe. And I was like, hey, can we get you on the podcast? Can I share your story? And she was like, well, you got to get me now because I'm getting ready to hit the road. And so, so Kim, tell us all about you. This is so exciting.
I tell you what, I have to give a shout out to Mary Livers also. She's a dear, dear friend of mine and a woman who I've worked with for many years. And she really is a badass in corrections. I'm telling you, whenever I have a question about something that I'm not sure of, the first phone call I make is to Mary. It's like, hey, Mary, what do you think about this? Are you reading this the same way I am? And she's really one that I use as a sounding board. And she's always so full of knowledge that, I really have a lot of respect for her. But this award, and she posted it on Facebook. And of course, I had been reached out by so many that she posted it on Facebook. It's an award that, it's kind of the acme of the correctional educators. And I was so honored to even be nominated. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award with the National Correctional Education Association, an association that I've been affiliated with for many, many years. And the work that Correctional Education Association does in exactly what I advocate for is trying to reform those that are incarcerated rather than, what the old system used to do in lock and feed.
Right.
That did nothing. Lock and feed, you can arrest criminals, you can put them in jail, lock them up, feed them, and let them out, and they're not going to change.
Right.
So, I've been advocating for years and years now, and CEA does exactly that. We believe that while they're in the system, if you educate them, get their hearts in the right place, whether, it's more in tune to, a Christian lifestyle, a higher education, even those that can't read, just getting them to be able to read, just, excelling their life in some way, they're going to come out to be a better person. Because I tell people all the time, now look, I'm not a judge and jury, and I'm not a legislator. I can't tell you that they're going to be locked up for the rest of their life because, they came and robbed your home. They're going to get out. That's just the law. I can't change that.
Right.
But what I can change is when they come back to your neighborhood, and they're coming back, which one do you want back? Do you want the one that got locked up for the crime that they committed against you? Or do you want a better person that's going to come out and work and be a tax-paying societal member, So, there's a lot of people that say, oh, they committed that crime. They need to go do the time. Yes, let them do the time, but let's make them better while they're there.
Absolutely. So where did this passion resonate from?
It's strange. Whenever I graduated from high school many, many years ago, all I wanted to do was to be a math and science teacher. I was so inspired by my high school math teacher, Mr. Kennedy. I always went back to him, I'm telling you, because he was such an inspiration to me. He's what made me want to be a high school math teacher. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to go to college, graduate in math and science, and go back and teach high school math and science. And what I found was that whenever I went and taught high school math and science in my 6.5 short career of teaching school, was the principal, who was a longtime friend of mine, Mr. Matt Martin, and God rest his soul, he would find the baddest kids in the school, I swear, the ones that vandalized the school, the ones that tore things up, didn't get involved in anything other than just mischief. He would come to me and say, look, Kim, I need a class that I can put this kid in, and I know he's going to do well. I don't know how I got that reputation, but I ended up with all of the kids that, were some kind of mischievous kids, but they seemed to respond to me. And I realized that,
Right.
some of these kids, and I could name off dozens of them, who were really the worst of the worst in school, but they were staying in school because God loved their parents, made them come,
Mm-hmm.
would make A's in my class. They would just excel, I thought, maybe God has another calling for me. I don't know. But one day I got a phone call out of the blue, wasn't looking for another job, from a dear friend of mine that I had known for years. And he was looking for a new principal. It was more or less a counselor / financial aid officer / principal at one of the state's, prisons, as a maximum security prison, all male. And I'm going, Mr. Ragland, I don't know if that's right for me or not, but I was at that time almost through with my counseling degree, getting my master's in counseling. And I said, well, let me go out there and check it out. So I went out to the prison, and I'm not going to lie to you. The first time I stepped into the prison and they opened up those electronic doors, I was scared. I'm not kidding you. I was scared. But the warden at that time was Richard Stalder. And y'all, he was a godsend. I'm telling you. He walked through with me, and he even told me, he said, Kim, I'm not going to lie to you. He said, if something breaks out on the prison and your office is down in the middle of the prison, if they come to me to this door, to the control center door, and there's a knife at your throat, and they say, I'm going to cut her throat if you don't open the door. He said, the door is not going to open. He said, we don't let anybody out. I said, well, if you're trying to scare me, you are. So he said, but I promise you, you're going to be safe. Let's just, go take a look around and what have you. So I decided to take the job. My office was in the center of the prison, but I want to tell you something. It was eye-opening. I think if something had broken out where my life would have been in danger in that prison, which it never did, of course, I think the guys that were residents there would have protected me with their own life.
Absolutely.
Because they knew I was there to help. They knew the teachers that were teaching in the classrooms were there to help. We weren't there for punitive action. We were there to make their life better, and they took advantage of that, which was fantastic. a lot of people tell me all the time, these people just get into school while they're in prison because, they don't want to have to go to work, because it is part of their work time. I say, I don't care. I don't care what the reason is, why they come to class. I don't care if it's because they're trying to get out of some other job. If they learn while they're in there, then I've done my job. That's all I want. I don't care what the reason is for coming. Just come,
That's incredible. I don't know if you've read the book, Rivers Waiting from Wally Lamb.
Oh my
gosh. Rivers Waiting. It just told your story.
Right.
And the librarian in the correctional facility was, the savior. Like, everybody leaned in with her story. I would highly recommend the book. The audio is fantastic.
I'll have to find that book and download it. I sure will.
I think somebody wrote a book about you.
Yeah.
That is incredible, and how brave to take that on, and then but to find comfort in it, to go, hey, here's a bunch of humans, and if I can give them one nugget and it improves their life, I'm gonna do it.
That's exactly right. Well, I stayed there at David Wade, thoroughly enjoyed my time there, But Richard Stalder, the warden that was there, went on a couple of years after I got there to be the secretary of the Department of Corrections in Louisiana. And about a year later, I guess, after he became secretary, or maybe a couple of years later, he called me and said, "Hey, Kim, got another task for you." I said, "Oh God, Richard, what is it now?"
I'm just wondering what made you keep answering his phone calls. I'm just kidding.
That's right.
Just kidding.
Tell you something. He is really an inspiration. He really is. He's one of those that you just he's like the Pied Piper. He just starts piping and you just want to follow him, And anyway, he called me and asked me, he said, he doesn't have a state director of correctional education. There never has been one. He wanted to create that position because what we did at Wade in formalizing all of the reporting and ensuring that, the students there actually completed what it is that they started. He said, I want that statewide. And now that I'm in charge of the state, I think we can do it. I said, Richard, to tell you the truth, I don't even know how many prisons you have in the state right now.
Right.
Let me come down and talk to you about it. So I did. I drove down to Baton Rouge. I was about 5 hours away up in North Louisiana, about 3 miles from the Arkansas line. So I drove down to Baton Rouge and he explained it to me. I said, okay, I think this is my next calling. Yep.
Wow.
I think the good Lord is telling me that this is my path. So came down to Baton Rouge and started working on transitioning all of the state prisons, then eventually a lot of the large jails, because you got to remember at that time, Louisiana had the highest per capita incarceration rate in the world. And you're going, how is that even possible? This small state has more people per capita locked up and incarcerated than anywhere in the world. And I said, we got to turn this around. This is ridiculous. We got to get these guys out and ladies out and make them want to stay out. We don't want them, this revolving door is crazy. So we did. Eventually, he put me on the task of writing a reentry program that might work with everyone in the state, jails, state prisons. I put a team of educators together to write that curriculum. We worked on it for probably 6-9 months, something like that, almost a year.
Wow.
Put it together, implemented it in Louisiana. And it made a big difference. And then it was picked up by Houghton Mifflin Company, school education publishing company. And we gave it to them and said, here, if you'll publish it and let people get it through you, nationwide. And it started getting adopted by other states. So
Wow.
that's something I'm really proud of, that it could go national like that. And through Secretary Stalder's encouragement, I got involved with the American Correctional Association and served as their education representative on their board of governors and, of course, on their delegate assembly for many years. Loved all the connections I made at ACA and got involved with CEA. And, of course, through Richard's encouragement again, he's going, Kim, you got to get on that board because we got to know what the internal's going on with the CEA. So I got on the board, and I don't know, 20 years later, I'm still on the board right now.
Oh, my lands. I was wondering, you taught for 6 years, and then how long were you in actually teaching it?
I taught for the first 6 years that I got out of college. So from 84, the end of 84 to the middle of 91, then went to David Wade Correctional Center. And then in 2002, became state director of correctional education and retired from that job in December of 17. And then since then, because I just can't sit still and not continue to advocate, I learned, during my job there, I learned how to write grants, federal grants and receive federal aid and answer RFPs and that kind of thing. So I started doing consulting work, just like my friend Mary Livers, and I brought her in on some projects that I've been fortunate enough to get in on. But now what I do is any law enforcement agency, like a sheriff who has a jail or a state commissioner who has prisons, and they have the heart to want to improve programs or expand programs at their facility or even start them up, because they have nothing there, then I will take that on as a task to get them federal aid to help start up these programs. So eventually they'll have some sustainability to keep the programs going. A big project that I'm on right now that I'm really proud of, it's been difficult, but if we're making good progress, is down in New Orleans. The Orleans Parish has, sheriff there has an Orleans Justice Center. That's a huge facility that houses more than 1,000 residents now. And they had a few programs there, not a lot of reentry programs, and anyway, back in 2023, they asked me if I would come on and help them with a federal grant that was available, so I did. We got the grant funded, and they still didn't have the staff to actually project manage the grant because, federal grant money is not free.
Right.
You think, you just get the money, you spend it on what you want, and, that's it. No, that's not it. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And I tell anybody, if you ask for $1 million, you're actually going to be able to use about half of that for the purpose that you need, because the other half is going to have to go to research and administration and all of the deliverable reports and, what have you that have to be done that you don't expect to be done whenever you actually applied for the grant. So, that's what's happening now is I'm helping them with all of their deliverables, their reports, making sure that they stay on track, making sure that they jump through all the hoops that they have to in order to, maintain the grant. But they're making huge progress down there. The number of students that have been served since before we actually started the project to today has more than doubled. So I'm really proud of that project down there. And
That's
with the new sheriff, we got a new sheriff down there, and she's very enthusiastic about expanding those programs down there. And I look forward to, we've got about a year and a half left on this project, and I look forward to it expanding even more. So,
right.
Well, I heard you use terminology just now, and I think that's the shift. You didn't say prisoner, you said students.
That's right. No, I preach this. Whenever you are under me in an incarcerated situation, you are a student, because I deal with students.
Right.
If you're not a student, you're just a resident of, of that facility. But otherwise, you're a student. If you're in a classroom, you're a student. And that's it. And that's what I want you to act like.
Well, but the humanity there that you even just said, residents, instead of an inmate or prisoner or what have you, you're saying a resident of this correctional facility. And the word correctional is correcting.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. It's supposed to be corrections and reform. Back in 91, when I first came on, the term inmate, convict was very common.
Mm-hmm.
What a negative connotation that was, and I'm so glad that we've transitioned away from that. But, the mindset of the supervisors at that time, the commissioners, the state directors, the sheriffs, and all of them at that time, even in ACA, at the American Correctional Association, was the majority. I'll bet 90% of the commissioners and supervisors and correctional officers believed in lock and feed, were not in support of programs at all. I'll give you a good for instance in that, and this is a personal story of mine that still resonates with me, and I'll never forget it. I had a sheriff here in Louisiana call me and say, Kim, I need at my jail had about, 800, residents in it at that time. He said, I need at my jail some kind of vocation that we can teach these guys before they get out. So, they can get out and get a good job. I'm tired of some of these constantly in and out my door. I said, Sheriff, I will do anything I can to help you get what you want. He said, well, I want it in the construction industry because that's what's going on around my area right now. We need construction workers.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I will work on that. It took me about 9 months to find a funding source that was going to actually start up a program that we could call sustainable, right? So I got the funding, called the sheriff. Hey, I'm so glad I got a hold of you. Guess what I have for you? He said, you have a construction program for me. I said, I do. I have it fully funded. I've already contacted the local technical college director. She's willing to certify the program for us. She's going to meet me at the jail. Can you arrange that? He said, I will have my warden meet y'all at the front gate and we will get this thing started. I said, Sheriff, I'm so excited about this. I drove over there, met the director of the technical college. We were both so pumped about it. I think I had $400,000 to start the program,
Wow.
So excited about it. The warden met us at the front gate. Wasn't the most cordial welcome I had ever had into a jail, but that's okay,
That's saying a lot.
Yeah, it's a former correctional officer, so okay. We went back to the space where he had designated where this site was going to be, and it was kind of in a remote area up the back side of the jail, very small. I said, okay, but we can work with this. As long as we can use the parking lot space inside the Sallyport area, as a workspace too. He said, yeah, that'll be fine. I said, well, we got a little issue here because that area is just a single fence. And, it has to be double fenced, in order for it to work. I said, or you can just have a security officer out here, that's manned.
Right.
I said, also, the instructor is not going to be a correctional officer. The instructor is going to be someone, from the technical college. So, can you provide him with a radio beeper or something, for his security also? Let's make sure that everybody's secure. That warden looked me in the eye as serious as he could be and said, ma'am, I don't know why you're here. But he said, I'm not doing that. I'm not providing a security officer. If you want them to have a radio, you can buy a radio. He said, but you're causing me problems. He said, as long as those guys are laying on their bunk in there and not causing me problems, he said, I'm happy. But if we have to bring them out here where they're a security risk, now you're causing me problems. I looked at the director of the technical college. I said, well, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll find somewhere else to put this program, okay? And Warden, I thank you for your time, and we'll be leaving now. Well, of course, when I drove back to Baton Rouge and told my boss what had happened, of course, he got on the phone with the sheriff and said, Sheriff, you got a problem. The sheriff got on the phone with me and said, Kim, I want that story written up, and I want it written, typed up in your own words to me from you. And he said, I want you to set up another visit in 2 weeks, and I'll have a new ward there. I went, yes, sir. I'll do that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. I just can't imagine. And I feel like it is shifting. And mainly because I talked to Mary and Penny, and they went recently to Angola, so we could, I didn't get to go, but they went and saw all the programming that is going on there at Angola.
Fantastic.
It's incredible. John came back and told me everything, and he was so moved when it was somebody's release day and they got to ride on the bus back, out of the gates, and just how moving that was. But and just what they're trying to do to make it a correctional facility instead of what it has been, symbolic and was in the past. So I love to see this, but it does take those, steps.
It takes a Kim. It takes a Kim Bailey and a Richard and a Mary.
Yes, it takes people that are like, wait, there's something wrong with this system, to start to say, we can do better. We can see, but I'm sure you've had countless of those warden stories, things that stopped you. But I love that you've been so motivated throughout just to keep that going, and that you're still like working so hard for these changes. Shelly and I were really
giving me breath. I will.
Yeah, as long as I gives you breath. I love it. We were really so given such a gift to interview Christian Bolden and his amazing partner in life, Taylor, and all of their work that they have done to try to bring, change to the correctional facility, and all of the research. We read Out of the Red. It's a beautiful book. If we talk about this all the time. Shelly and I have no real background on this, so we are educating ourselves, and we're hoping to educate the people that are listening that you can't just shut the door on people, So seeing people like you, Kim, is just so inspiring.
Thanks. Well, I tell you what, y'all got a lot of good people working over there in Texas. I've got a lot of friends over there who advocate for the same thing. I know it. I think he's still at Stephen F. Austin's, Doug Dreckey. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with him. There's so many there with the Wyndham School District that, promote education and offer education programs there in the prisons in Texas. Texas has really got a great partnership in that Wyndham School District. You really do. And the partnerships with the college, like Lee College over in Texas, they've got a great partnership there. I love to see things like that grow, and there are so many states who don't have those connections. We're fortunate here in Louisiana to have the connection with the Louisiana Community and Technical College System, that's been a great partnership, special school district with the Department of Education, but the Department of Corrections in Louisiana funds, those adult ed teachers. So, it's always been a fight, to keep funding, but you can't make it unless you have, a lot of federal help too. So, that federal aid through adult ed, Title I, that these states get, I know Louisiana and Texas both get them, is essential. It's essential. And of course, every time that I get to talk to a congressman, don't cut that funding, just don't cut that funding. And, I have a lot of friends at the Department of Justice that I check the news every day with the Department of Justice to see what's available out there. And I have a list, of sheriffs and commissioners and their wish list, and when one comes up and I'm going, hey, I think that one may fit this wish list, I'll give them a call and say, hey, I think I found you something,
Oh, that's incredible. That advocacy and understanding the system. Because, if you're a warden, I would assume you don't have time to understand the grant system and the federal system to help support, your current guest load. And so it's, man, what a great organization you built. How do sheriffs get in touch with you? How do they find you?
I have emails and phone calls from sheriffs and commissioners all the time, saying, Kim, here's something that we're actually needing. If you find anything that can fund it, let me know. And I'm not gonna lie to them, and in the majority of them, it's just not out there, or it may take a couple of years for something to come available, but you're on my list, and if it becomes available, I'll do it. What the sad part about it is that the smaller jails who really need it, and I work with a lot of those, is they can't get federal funding because they're just too small. It's like a micro thing, and the micro grants that come out of the Department of Justice and the COPS program are too small to actually fund, a full-size program. It doesn't matter if it's in a small jail or a large facility, it's still going to have 20 to 30 students in it at one time. You still fund a teacher, it's the same thing. And they don't seem to get that, the feds don't seem to get that. So I try to get some of the smaller ones that are close together to form a consortium. And I'll build them an MOU, to form a consortium and say, all right, you have a small jail, you have a small jail, you have a small jail, and y'all are all within 100 miles of each other from one end to the other, right? Maybe it's 3 parishes, 4 counties, what have you. Let's form a consortium and let's write one big grant under the consortium.
Oh, smart.
Submit that consortium MOU to say, yes, we're all going to work together. That's the only way to get it done.
Right.
Try to find 3 or 4 sheriffs that are side by side who all have the same mentality that they want a program in their jail. Whew. That's a task.
That's the hardest part. You can get the funding eventually, but you got to work the sheriffs and
the egos.
You have to have the mindset. If you don't have a sheriff that has the mindset, yes, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
It's not going to get done, you know.
Do y'all work with any public funding? Is there any like public, not government funded?
I've written some small local grants through some of the, let me think. I know one that we recently did was for a sheriff that actually wanted a drone, and I wrote him a small local grant through the electrical co-op. It was a community electrical co-op that was doing a small grant. I said, yeah, I'll write the grant for you. You know, I don't see any reason why, you know, you wouldn't get it.
Right.
And sure enough, he got the drone that he wanted, but, you know, that was just for one little piece of equipment. But that's the way those small, you know, those small local grants are. They're only for, you know, $10,000 and less. They're very small. It's not anything that you could actually start a program up with, you know. So you kind of have to go after the bigger fish in order to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course. And is there any tie-in with the education system that, you know, I don't know what y'all call it there, but tying in with, because some of these, you know, visitors are still school aged.
Yeah, some of
yeah. I deal mostly with adult facilities and not juvenile facilities, and that's mainly with juvenile facilities. You're talking about the difference between having a school where they get Carnegie units, you know, to graduate from high school, and having a school where they get a high school equivalency diploma.
Right.
There's a big difference. In adults, I always encourage them to go the high school equivalency route. Because them going back to get those Carnegie units means that you have to have certified teachers through the department, you know, your state Department of Education,
right?
Which is usually not feasible. But getting an adult, you know, getting their high school diploma equivalency, it's a lot easier. And let's get them onto a post-secondary program where they can get, you know, a skill or a college.
Yeah, because then you can have facilitators help them meet the standards.
That's right.
Versus having
I encourage them, use those who have graduated to help, you know, help tutor the ones that are still in class.
For sure.
Let's make it a full circle deal here, you know?
Yeah.
You know, graduates, passes the test, goes on, gets his, you know, certification in a technical area or gets a degree, you know, a college degree, and he's still housed there. He's still a resident. He's going to want to go back and help somebody else to get through, you know, kind of like the Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Let's help somebody else get their diploma, you know, and get them on the right track.
Wow, you are absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh, inspirational. I love how much energy you have and how you're just constantly recreating, and you're finding, if there's a problem, you're going to try to find a solution.
And in fact, we've got to be problem solvers. Or otherwise we're going to be stuck in a world with a bunch of people who need to go and get their education, but they're never going to get it. So let's educate them while I've got them, right?
Agreed.
I have one last question for you. Where do you get your gumption from? Because you just have so much gumption.
I don't know. I think I just have to attribute that to the good Lord. I'm telling you, he has just led me on a path that I was just supposed to be on, you know?
Yes.
So I say praise him.
Praise him. Well, we're excited to play you guys in sports. We're Longhorn fans, but we love the Tigers too. We feel like we're, you know, just brothers and sisters in that good fight.
I've got a lot of friends over there who are Longhorn fans, and I tell them all the time, I pull for the Longhorns, I flip the horns, except when you're playing LSU.
Exactly. I feel like we're siblings, and it's like, I hope you win. unless you're playing us.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right, exactly.
And then we really hope you win when you play the Aggies.
And see, we really hope you win when you're playing the Tide.
There we go.
We'll do our part, you do yours, we're good.
Well, John and I will be in your neck of the woods before you know it, and hopefully we'll get to see you over in Baton Rouge because we'll be going to see Mary and Penny before.
Oh,
all
wonderful!
the
You
sports.
have to holler whenever you're in town. Then, yeah, love to
Yeah.
come visit. Meet you in person.
What is your food recommendation in Baton Rouge?
I mean,
Oh my gosh! Let's see. The char grilled oysters, the gumbo, depending on the time of the year, the boiled crawfish.
I mean, you can go anywhere. It's gonna be great.
Upstairs right now, I've got a shrimp gumbo that's simmering up right now upstairs. I'm hoping somebody's up there stirring it for me.
You better go work on that. I don't want to burn your roux or anything. Well, thank you so much, Kim. This has been enlightening, inspiring, and I just love to see people are following the course of doing humanity good deeds. So thank you so much for all of your efforts and all your
Let's
heart.
go. And I appreciate the invitation. It was so nice to meet you.
Okay. Have a good one. All right. Texas, Texas.
Yeehaw!